The most important thing for touch analysis in archaeology, the first thing you touch is soap and water. Whether you're wearing gloves or not, when you're touching artifacts, you want to make sure your hands are clean of any and all impurities so you don't risk harming the artifacts. That's the first thing you do. Touch the soap, touch the water, and then touch paper towels to dry your hands off. For this, we won't be using gloves, but even if I was, I would still want to wash my hands either way. First things first is touching objects, of course, haptic analysis, touch analysis. And one of the things you can learn, for example, stone tools, whenever you pick them up, you can feel the weight. You can kind of feel where you would hold it and how to use it. For this one, for example, it's a mono, it's a hand tool. You use it to scrape things down. Usually scrape down grains to make bread, Native American tools. And also take your fingernails and run it across the rock. And you can feel whether it's bumpy or smooth. This one, even though it looks smooth when you run the palm or the flat of your hand across it, when you run your nails across it, you can feel the ridges and bumps. It's been smoothed over from use wear, but the ridges can still show where it's still kind of bumpy, where grains would have been caught in. Different type of rock, much smaller, had this beautiful little piece of bacon shirt that was probably for a projectile point. So with this, Alabate's also known as bacon shirt very fondly because it kind of looks like bacon when you look at the colors. It looks a lot smoother, and it is in fact much smoother than the previous rock looked at. This was more than likely a projectile point that's been worked down. And whenever you run your fingers over it, you can feel the smoothness, but you can also feel where it's been struck to form the shape from the original rock. Right over around here specifically, there's a nice ridge where you can feel here it was struck to carve off extra pieces. Something else you can feel, which is even more important, is along the sides, how sharp it is. This one, it's pretty sharp, but not sharp enough to cut my fingers. However, as a projectile point, when fired or thrown or used however it was used, this would have been extremely sharp, would have been struck at, which caused these striking lines and the marks you can feel. To make it even sharper, it would have been an extremely effective tool. This right here, what we have is bone. This is more specifically bird bone because it's hollow on the inside. It was probably used from this hole right here, could have been for a whistle or some sort of sound thing. However, what I mentioned about bone for touch analysis is something we do to define whether or not it's bone. If we can't tell, is you lick it. The reason being, if you look here, you can see these little small pieces here, little holes around the side. Those are the pores that are in bone. So these pores, if you stick your tongue to it, your tongue will stick to it just a little bit because you know it's a bunch of holes on your tongue and your tongue will stick to it. If these pores don't exist and you lick it, it's more than likely rock. But in this case, I stick my tongue to it, which is touch, I'm not tasting it. My tongue stick to it just a little bit. It's hard to see on camera, but you can feel it on your tongue. Touch analysis, and it's bone. Pottery analysis, we've got two different pieces here. First one, it's really interesting. It has a much rougher exterior, and in feeling it, you can feel how it was made. This is called corrugated because of this rougher texture. It's got these fun bumps that are in lines. It's almost like a bit of a wavy pattern in each line. It's hard to see, but it's much easier to feel when you run your hand across it, or if you can scrape your nails across it, you can feel the ridges and bumps in each line. It's really cool. The outside of it's also burned, which you can kind of feel a little bit of the sediment, but it doesn't wash off onto your hands. Meanwhile, if I flip it over, the inside, it's much smoother than the outside. It's still somewhat rough, but the comparison is definitely this is smoother than the exterior. It's probably used for more than likely food containing items that would be served. Then what's really cool with pottery sherds is you can feel the actual inside of it for how it was made, and you can feel the grain, also known as the temper, and that's like kind of sort of the larger pieces and how it was formed and fired. And you can see whether it was made with really nice stuff or really much rougher stuff, which would tell you whether it was for more common use or more it's okay if it breaks. So this one was made with a finer temper, just not the finest, and you can see because you can still see the grains as well as feel them when you run your finger across. It's really cool when we find pottery sherds because then you can learn how they're made. A different one that's a little nicer is this. They're both from the same reason, but this one is decorated and absolutely smoother that you can feel. This is actually decorated on the inside, not the outside as much. The outside decorations have washed away a great deal. And then same thing as you can feel the temper, and this one has a much finer temper, a much finer grain. You can't really see it at all very much. This one also has the rim, which is nicely decorated, so you can feel that too, and kind of feel how they would make it, because whenever they're making pottery, they have to flip it upside down for it to harden. It's pretty fun.